Good afternoon. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note, any website or email that I mentioned will be posted in the chat. For those seeking business license assistance, please visit us here at City Hall in our Small Business Center or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business license can be applied for or renewed online at chicagobusinessdirect.org. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To learn more about this program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. This webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. We would like to encourage all attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. At this time, I would like to welcome you to Empower Hour, and our Commissioner, Ken Meyer, will start this webinar.
Hello, and welcome to the BACP Empower Hour for the month of November. I'm Ken Meyer, Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. Our goal is to help businesses and consumers get the information they need to succeed by sharing advice and stories from Chicago's entrepreneurs. As we are gearing up for the holiday shopping season, truthfully, I've not even started. I don't even have a list yet. But I am encouraging all of our viewers to get a little bit more organized than this commissioner and to seriously consider shopping local in Chicago this holiday season. Whether you're looking for some extra greenery in your own space or want to give a gift of green, Plant Salon is your place. And today's guest for Empower Hour is Nika Vaughan, founder of Plant Salon located in Bucktown in the West Town community. So good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you. Tell us about yourself and how you got started with Plant Salon.
So my story with Plant Salon starts with my other company, Nika Vaughan Bridal Artists, and I've had that company for 10 years. I'm a professional hair and makeup artist for 20 years. And when COVID hit, hair, makeup, and weddings all shut down. Yeah. And we had a storefront. Our storefront is at Augusta and Ashland, 957 North Ashland. And I've always filled it with plants because I'm a plant collector. This is my house. So like, this is like, I bring work home with me. It's always around. So when the shutdown started in March and I could just feel it. I was like, everybody's on Instagram posting their plants and just antsy. And I had already sold plants in a small way, just casually. And I thought, this is going to be it. And I had a sign put on the window June 1st. And so June 1st of 2020, we were live and open to the public.
That's great. I like the way you transitioned from during the pandemic from something that just, unfortunately had to close due to the stay-at-home orders for businesses and for people and transferred it over to Plant Salon. When you hear the name, or at least when I hear the name Plant Salon, I certainly think of a place where I could bring my plants, and some of my plants do need a little tender loving care, but that's not the case. Can you tell our viewers what it is exactly that you offer when it comes to plants?
Plant Salon is very much like a curated experience. Something I've always noticed prior to even being a plant shop is people really loved coming into our artist studio space that had, 9-foot tall trees in it. We have a 12-foot tall monstera, and there were just open shelves and just plants they were familiar with, rare collectible plants. And it felt very much like more of a curio shop versus a garden center. Yeah. And so that's kind of how we view when people come in, we want to hear your backstory. We want to know, what kind of light do you have? How many of, string of pearls plants have you killed? previously, this, and we always say it's a safe space, it's a safe space. We also say, like, we're not Google. So those of us that are great with succulents, I go, oh my gosh, you have to connect with, my colleague so-and-so because they're like the succulent person, or let's try and brainstorm a great gift for your sister. It sounds like she has great windows. And so it's very much like a high touch, curated experiential space.
Nika, you've decided to invest your time and money into an industry that has very few minority owners. What do you think some of the challenges, if any, when it comes to attracting new customers?
For new customers, I feel like they very much seek out and appreciate different perspectives and more diversity in their retail places. So that has been great. It's been more probably in finding distributors and wholesalers and suppliers where you kind of see that there's not that diversity. And so then I've had people who will love the idea of what I'm doing, and they start small. They're like on Facebook Marketplace, and they're like, how do I kind of branch out to kind of get to where you're at? And one of the things I've said is you kind of have to look outside of your own bubble you might have to reach into a community or an area, drive an hour and a half south of Chicago a different way to find the farms that are growing the stuff, somebody who's got the stuff that you want, and you're not necessarily a part of their community. They don't have the diversity that Chicago has, so it might be uncomfortable. And that has been, I think, probably a learning curve for people as we have grown in this as the plant shop, is that I'm fine with it. With weddings, we talk to everybody. We're used to talking to everybody. So it doesn't faze me, but then you kind of have to tell people no, you're going to have to you talk to so-and-so and he's got a crazy accent and too many dogs, and you're going to have to drive out to the airport. And they really realize that they have to we're diverse in the city of Chicago, but there's all kinds of other diversity as far as then kind of reaching out for your distributors and your wholesalers and going into these other communities.
Yeah. And when you're purchasing plants to bring back to the store to probably grow and then also to sell, obviously,
Yes.
Is that something you can do all 12 months, or do you have to kind of do it seasonally, or does it vary on the plant variety?
We have our two boutiques, one in West Town and one in Bucktown, but in Pilsen, we actually have a grow space. And so at our grow space there, we have greenhouses and just more plant lights, than we need, just a lot of stuff. And so that is where we will try to grow year round. And one of the things, and I do think it was quite a gift to have come from already owning a business and then coming into Plant Salon, because then a lot of the things that longevity, how am I going to maintain stock when cash flow gets weird?
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. And my husband works with me now in the business. And he used to be a gardener. So he knows how to do stuff. But as far as the working on the business side, he'll be like, why are there so many of these little baby plants? Why can't we just sell them? And I'm like, no, in 4 months, this is our stock from 4 months. And this is our stock in 6 months. And we have to be mindful of unit cost as those changes happen. So it is very much a long-term planning process.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about, I know you have the brick and mortar stores, and as I mentioned before we joined the Zoom that I had driven by the other evening. But tell me how social media plays a role in helping out your sales, promoting yourself. And I know that social media is constantly changing in how we market and promote everything. And I want more people to learn more about social media and how it's really become a much needed success, particularly for small businesses. It always pains me when I see a small brick and mortar only shop close. There's the foot traffic went down, and they never kind of had an online presence, either through social media to push people to go to the store or to actually do sales online.
I would say to be always with social media, it is important to be mindful of that it's a tool to be applied towards a strategy. if in my other business with weddings, we have people that, they grew up in Chicago, but then they moved away.
Yeah.
So to have a national reach for that business makes sense. We use tags for different cities, colleges, grad schools, because we're trying to get this wider reach. Something I figured out probably, I think sometime during 2021 was I was kind of doing that, and I had invested in with a like a branding company to help me kind of be really aggressive in creating this content. And then it clued me in that I was like, wait a minute, our core demographic is within, an hour of Chicago. Hands down, 99.9% of our customers are truly local people. So how we use hashtags, what we pay for, if we're going to pay for something, it then had to be like, what is the goal of this versus just doing it because it's expected to be done.
And let me ask you this: have you branched out your operations to online sales? And I don't know how that works even in the plant world, but yeah.
You can definitely do that. But one thing, I feel like there's so many, the market is very saturated now. When right at 2020, we kind of struck when there's a lightning strike, and we struck when neither was ready, and it was great timing. But then people who have, venture capitalists and just more capital to work with were able to move fast, and they're bigger. So that means that their logistics for handling shipping is a better process, cost effective. They do it really well. And so instead of trying to compete with that, I didn't want to then fall into the Etsy realm where, it's not that anything's wrong with Etsy, but I kind of felt that it was too wishy-washy. I needed to kind of commit to a focus on what our goal was. And so I thought, if people enjoy the space that we create, let's focus on those spaces. And then let's do things that when people come, it was almost a respite. Like the first few months that we were open, people would literally just walk around the store in a circle. I think the space is 500 square feet, if that, and they would spend 45 minutes. And so I thought, okay, if that is the, the benefit to the customer, is shipping my focus then? Possibly not. So we don't ship plants. Aside from there's some regulation stuff that you want to be mindful of. We focused on gifts. And so what I would ship was things that are curated gift boxes. So then you're kind of committing to, 3 to 4 products. I would have set, retail prices. It was much more of a controlled way to do it. Versus, and we definitely have people that buy, online, and they just buy what they buy. But that way it was easier for me to kind of keep ahead of the demands adding that channel would be.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's segue just a little bit also into your beauty industry. You've had, as you were mentioning, you had over 20 years of experience with beauty in the beauty industry and wedding planning, obviously. In addition to selling plants, you also sell beauty products.
Yes.
And how were you able to combine your love for plants and beauty?
I was able to combine them. I felt like I had to. I felt because I had so many people in the West Town community that we've been in that space for maybe 4 or 5 years, and they would constantly knock on the windows and be like, "Why is this plant shop never open? These are horrible hours." We're like, we're not a plant shop. We have bridal across the windows. So I wanted it to feel like a tie-in of one thing to the next. So these are like sister companies, and the branding and vibe and energy of one definitely fed into the other. And then the other reason it was important to me to kind of include that is how I enjoyed shopping. When I've got kids and, a spouse and all this work. When I get time away to go window shopping, I love plants. I love, grab some great earrings, find some fun soaps or like an oil or perfume or something. And that's a fun day. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun to kind of curate a space where someone could kind of do all of that in one space?
And let me ask you this: are the beauty products plant-based? And are you using them? This is probably crazy. I'm not a chemist or botanist, but are you using some of your plants in the skincare products, or maybe you're going through a distribution company for the skincare products?
We definitely, a lesson I learned from my first business was to just go ahead and find brands I love instead of having to do retail and then manufacturing, and all the different ways you can do it. I was like, let me find someone else who's already, done that legwork and invest in them and buy their product. And it kind of, their product ties into my story. So I want to support them and it works great. So that's what we did there. We do tend to go for mostly organic, natural, plant-based products. But I don't feel like it's something that I would ever say, oh, that's the hill I'm going to die on. I think the fact that it is enjoyable and it gives benefits would be something that would be our main focus. So from 2020 till now, when you couldn't really go out to parties, you couldn't go to weddings and things, you were sitting at home. We would call it, making a jungle spa at your house. So then it really was about the essential oils and the smells and self-pampering. And now as, weddings have returned, parties are back, galas are back. The idea of having, glowing serums and eye masks. And these are not necessarily plant-based things, but they are things that make us feel great. And so we're thinking of ways to add more of that back in going into 2023.
That's great. And what are the best sellers right now?
Our best sellers, hands down, I would say are candles. We do a lot of incense. And then for gifts, we do a lot of oils and things. So like, I love this one. This is a lilac oil. So it smells like summer, which is hard to find. And so when we have people that come in and say, my sister just moved into a place. I either want to get her like, a plant in a pot, or it's someone who is a fan of plantiness, but they are like, don't keep a lot of things alive or whatnot, so they kind of bear them like mugs and things like that are supportive of the community, but without actually having to take care of a plant. So we do a lot of mugs and t-shirts also.
Yep. Many of our attendees, particularly small business owners, are seeking capital to start or enhance their business. How were you able to secure capital to open your business? And then maybe explain a little bit of some of the financial obstacles that you came across and what advice you can offer someone who is having issues with getting a loan or to open their business.
I would say, especially for somebody who is maybe been what's it called, a solo entrepreneur, you've been on your own, like a sole proprietor, for a while, and you're ready to kind of grow. You're thinking of, you want a dedicated workspace. So what does this growth look like? I always think of running a business as having peaks and valleys, and the valleys might be when business is slow and you've got to hustle. And then the peak is when things are going really great. Your bank account looks great. And maybe you start spending on some bigger things. When you're at a quieter, more successful period is the best time to look ahead for paperwork. Do you have a CPA? What do your documents look like? What do, having a business plan, which I know a lot of founders, they hate making business plans because they're outdated as soon as you make kind of a thing. But like having that documentation on paper that talks about your business, because then in 2020, when we were opening, I was able to utilize resources that I kind of like had waiting, simmering on the stove. And I was able to go, wait a minute, I need a resource. Let me reach out to this, versus starting, June 1st, trying to Google on day one, hey, how do I even begin to find this? How do I, access a line of credit? And then they want to see maybe your profit and loss documents, and you don't know where they are and you don't know how to talk about them. It was kind of like being prepared for that moment to be able to take advantage of the opportunity that came.
Yeah, that's great. What's your tax ID number? Oh gosh, I forgot where I put it.
Yeah, being able to find those documents. And then sometimes, I definitely think of myself more as like a founder versus the black and white kind of manager person. I like to have big ideas, and then I like to work with my team to kind of make those things happen. So then I would have people on my team that they are the Excel spreadsheet kind of person.
Yeah.
In between the team is then a very organized Google Drive where, there's a table of contents for your Google Drive. So not only did you take the time to save it, which is great that you saved that document, but can you find that document? Because you named it something weird. Having resources in your own organization or your company that help keep you organized, so that when your CPA is like, great, send me all of your quarterly tax returns, I want to make sure you're getting the right credits, that you're able to access them quickly.
That's important. So let's just branch out a little bit past that kind of your inner kind of kitchen cabinet folks are helping you, like your accountant, attorney, et cetera. Tell me about if you ever partnered with like the local chamber or other kind of small business owners, or perhaps networking. Are you currently working with the chamber? And I think sometimes this is important for some of our viewers that may be entrepreneurs, maybe thinking about starting a business, but kind of feel like, oh gosh, who else can I talk to? Who can I network? How do I find that CPA type person?
I think that the chamber was amazing. Like, I reached out first to the West Town Chamber of Commerce, and because they had like some funds available that you'd apply for, but they were for like signage and things like that. And especially that I had rented salon spaces over the decades, here and there, but to have a freestanding, corner storefront, and I thought, oh my gosh, I need signage. And they really were helpful in going, okay, this is a really small idea. Just so you know, this is what a bigger idea looks like. Here are different resources for security, projects people have going on. If you want to increase the security, they were very helpful for kind of like connecting A to B. Like, they were like, here's a need you have, and here are some different ways, we can help make that happen. So that was wonderful. Definitely partnering with other small businesses is so huge. And I think doing it in a very thoughtful way, that kind of is, so you're not just expending your own resources. We have very long days when you run a business. You're always working. So then to do like a giveaway where it's not quite clear what the benefit for your company is to give away the thing you're giving away. Like, did this really generate traffic to you? Like, what were you hoping to get? People coming in the store, people going to your website. I think being very thoughtful about what that end goal of that collaboration is supposed to be. I did a collaboration with a wonderful store, Recycled Modern, and they are super cool, like great art and vintage pieces. And Sherry is the owner, and she did a pop-up. She would do these pop-ups, and she goes, hey, would you do a pop-up with me? And we did a pop-up, and she's like, oh, great, I'll put you outside. It went well. So it was like a one-day tester. And then I was debating opening that second location. I wanted to make sure that I had the logistics in place to run a second location. So I thought, Sherry, what if we did like a long-term pop-up, because she had extra space in her store. Mm-hmm. And she was looking to fill that space out. So then we did like a 6-month pop-up in the space. And that gave me time to work the funny business out of my logistics, like, oh, wow, commuting with plants. How are we going to get from point A to, we don't own a truck yet. Do we need these things? It really was a great test run. And then we got the benefit of always kind of promoting each other here and there to kind of go, not only can you find me, but you can find me here. It's like added value in that social media post. So I 110% encourage collaborating with other, like when you have two brands where like you see, oh, these things go well together. That's a great opportunity to collaborate.
That's awesome. Now it's November, and we are folks are starting to focus on the holiday shopping season. As a business owner, how do you prepare for the holiday rush and season? Actually, let me even go back one. How far out are you planning for the holiday season? Like how many weeks or months out? And what are you, and tell us about that whole preparing for the next couple of busy months.
Well, this was a fun year because we did a lot of growing very early in the spring. We opened we signed the lease on our second storefront, I think in March or April, and we opened, I think, May. And then the economy started to cool down just a little bit.
Okay.
So we went from, you know, and it's like that's how it works when you own the business, that you kind of go, oh, we're going to do a lot of growth. Wow. No, we're not. We're going to kind of calm down. And then how do you kind of maintain things? So where in 2021, I was doing a lot of holiday planning and purchasing, probably even starting in July. I would kind of start to like go, what do I want to carry? How much is it? Can I afford it? How am I going to pay for that? When am I going to pay for it? Which opportunities are giving me like a net 30, where I have 30 days from the time I receive it to pay, which do I have to pay up front? That was a wonderful, I'm glad we had it in 2021. And then in 2022, I was a little bit more nimble about what are things that if they don't sell right away, we can always make good use of it. They're not just taking up shelf space, or they're great things. We teach a lot of classes like how to plant a succulent. We do plant propagation classes. We do corporate team building classes. So then I thought, what are great products like mugs, you know, that are great for holidays, great for, you know, gifts in general, great for corporate team building. So if I'm going to commit part of my budget towards that one product, I get way more use out of it.
That's great. And you expand during the holiday season, like stuff like I don't really carry that the rest of the year, but I can give this a whirl this holiday season, see if it's something that someone just pick up at, you know, at the cash register last minute purchase.
It's probably pretty funny compared to other stores. Probably, you know, other stores probably have Santas everywhere and everything. Our biggest thing is we'll carry plants that we would never usually carry. And we're always kind of like, okay, this plant better not die. Like we wanted to find a new home. So we do like the little mini Christmas trees. I try to find variegated poinsettias. So there are poinsettias that have these cream splotches.
Oh, neat.
But then they just look a little funkier. And so I like that. That's probably the most, you know, targeted for a holiday, and then like cards and like greeting cards and things like that. Otherwise, I kind of think of the items we carry as components, and how can I rearrange those components to market towards the next thing we're working on. So that, you know, it's probably like using the same like 5 staples of foods, but we're going to rearrange it to make this meal, to present it this way, and then rearrange them for another occasion this way. And they look different, but my cost investment was more controlled that way.
Yeah. Before we take some questions from the viewers, let me ask you just a couple of things that not so much about the retail. What do you, when you're not running your business, when you're not in the shop, what do you do to relax?
I'm not gonna lie. I have 2 businesses, so I don't have a lot. Like I'm really like into I do stuff with my kids a lot. I have 2 10-year-olds, and I probably take a nap, maybe.
That's okay. That's good.
It's not very exciting.
And tell everyone that's listening to us today, and we'll also be on YouTube, where are you located? Give us both the locations.
So our original store is at 957 North Ashland in Chicago, in the West Town Ukrainian Village neighborhood. And then the newer, larger store is at 2016 West Armitage, right by Armitage and Damon in Bucktown.
Yeah, great. As this webinar is titled Empower Hour, please share a piece of advice that you can empower all of our attendees with.
I would say to think of running a business. It is very much a marathon. It is not a race. The goal that you see in front of you is just like a mile marker, because there is still more to come. And there's another one coming. So you really have to have a longer game plan versus I just have to make it to this next goal.
Yeah.
You really have the marathon in mind.
That's great. If you're willing to stay just a little bit longer, let's see if we have some questions from the audience. Still, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
First question.
Yep.
How did you go about selecting a site for your stores?
The site, well, the first site was I had it for my other business. And so that was kind of more easy. And I liked it just in general, parking you want to be mindful. I wanted to be mindful of how my customers were going to be accessing the space. For my wedding business, most of my customers and clients would come with family. So they might have like a mom or somebody. So usually they would be driving versus taking the train. Whereas with our plant customers, we happen to luck out that it's very close to the CTA division stop. It's about like 3 blocks away or so. So we noticed a very young contingency that would come to that location. And the second location was fun because it's a very quiet neighborhood. And so the way we wanted to organize that store was about, things that might be in a bigger family's home, the kind of plants they might want to keep their longer term, their lifestyle maybe isn't as transient as a younger person's. So then we were looking then for storefronts that kind of fit like that kind of community.
Good answer. Stella?
Next question. Do you partner with other businesses for collaborations?
Yes, and I think pop-ups are fabulous. Just be mindful of weather, weather and location, because the more like sleepy and quiet and peaceful that community or that location is, then your pop-up has to be a destination with people who are making an effort to go there versus a pop-up that is, right next to a Starbucks or a neighborhood gym with lots of foot traffic going by. So just kind of be mindful of the larger details outside of, what's going on or outside of your pop-up when you plan it.
Next question. What do you attribute the recent craze for plants?
I think that people wanted something to take care of that was low stakes. We would always say like, if your plant dies, you might feel bummed out. You might eat some ice cream, but you're going to watch Netflix and you'll keep it moving. You can't say that for a lot of other things. You can't be like, I'm on my 12th cat. It didn't work out the first 11 times. That sounds horrible, but you can do that for your plants. So, and we're very encouraging of it, that plants are, are an art and a science. We have a no refund policy at our shop because we are small and people take these things home and do all kinds of weird things. Like they feed their plant coffee and do weird stuff. So we're like, no, we can't take your plant back because you got the benefit of learning from it. That's part of the hobby of plant care. I have other plants tucked around me this way that you can't see because it's not working out for them right now. Those plants. And that's part of the hobby of it. And people are, I think, looking to engage with something during the shutdown. So it's just kind of like a perfect timing for plants to have a moment.
Next question. How did you decide what suppliers to work with?
One of the neat things was I got some wonderful recommendations from other small plant companies, like very small local, where, am I going to get us, we're all talking, should we have a storefront? Do you have a truck or that kind of thing? So it was very much someone who found a great resource. And I think when there isn't this when there's a sense of community, when there's a sense of like, you're doing the same stuff I am, and we're not competing. There's enough resources for all of us. Maybe it's having a growth mindset or something, but there's enough resources for all of us. And so, hey, I noticed that you are buying plants from way over there because I can kind of tell. And did you know there's this place right around the corner? If you bring in your reseller's license, they'll sell you plants really at a great price. And so then now, instead of you just having your own little, knowledge bank and another small business having their knowledge bank, you kind of were able to share and grow that information between the two of you. That was a huge, it was amazing for us when we first started. People were very generous with, giving us like, pointers in the right direction.
And our last question. When did you realize your business was ready to grow?
Good question.
Well, I'm a founder, so I'm like it's in my DNA. And so I'm always like, what can we do next? Kind of mindset. The not growing is probably harder than the growing. But I think over the years, making sure that it's a purposeful growth. It's not just for the sake of saying you did it or for some kind of status, on social media, but it's not real. So making sure that growth it's profitable, that it actually is helping to grow the bottom line, the balance sheet of the business. To me, I think that was a really big thing when I started taking more small business education classes, learning more about how the financial health of my business, how I could know more about it, and then be more educated about it, so that maybe having, a post or, a collaboration for somebody where I'm giving them $100 of free product. I'm like, actually, that wasn't a growth moment. I just gave away $100 of product. It generated no sales. That wasn't it. Doing things where you realize this is a new revenue stream. It's a passive revenue stream. I'm going to be putting in less resources, but getting more profit out of it. Those are moments of growth. And so I'm always trying to find them.
Well,
Is that
thank
it?
you. Yep, Ken, that was all of our questions.
I have one last question. So I see the beautiful greenery behind you. Everything looks just amazing. And when I drove by the other night, I could just see from the windows, such beautiful greenery inside. How is your amazing green thumb, your interior amazing green thumb, does that also translate to an exterior, to the outside gardening?
I have twins, so there was a period probably from toddler, like I would say from newborn to at least maybe preschool, where we were a very no plants inside kind of house.
Okay.
Because there were little hands coming from like in stereo, like from all directions. So my husband and I,
Mud everywhere.
oh my gosh. And they were like, don't touch. They're the kid that would walk with your plant with a dirt ball hanging from the pot. So we were probably really aggressively got into our outdoor gardening. And for a few years, we used to like not share, like the front yard was mine and the backyard was his. And it would be hilarious to sit and have dinner out like, there and be like, are you sure that's how you want to do that? And he, and that was a sign, I think too, that I knew that I could do a plant business. Because even from a family perspective, I was like, we have a lot of resource and chutzpah.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Nika, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to all of our viewers who took time out of their day to join us. To watch this webinar again, or if you came late, or if you want to share it with friends and family, you can visit us at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. And to learn more about the next Empower Hour, which is December 15th at 2 o'clock, please visit chicago.gov/business education. And one last time, if you want to find you on social media or go visit the brick and mortar, give one last shout out to how they find you.
Absolutely. One of the best ways to find us is actually on our Instagram. We're Plant Salon Chicago on Instagram, because we post a lot of behind the scenes stuff there. We post what's new in store. Also, just little projects we're working on, things that are looking great and maybe not so great, and how we're working through that process.
That's great. So for all the viewers looking for that holiday candle, plants, face cream, etc., we now know where to go. All right, everyone, have a great day. Nika, thank you again. You have a great day. It's a great day to have. It's kind of cloudy, rainy, cold. And what a beautiful day to be in your shop with all those plants.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Have a great day and happy shopping, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.